Guys, welcome back once again. Today we're gonna talk about the final stage of the paint job on this beautiful dragon lady from the Infinity lineup. Specifically, we're gonna discuss how these paints behave when used with the brush. You can check the initial stages of this paint job in this video up here, where I'm gonna discuss all the airbrush work. I had experienced an extremely good result with the airbrush. Switching to brush, I was very pumped, I had very high expectations for the way they would have performed. Let's jump straight into the tutorial. Now I'm showing you the end result that we're gonna achieve by the end of this video, and I'm gonna show you the color list that we use. They're all new scale colors, smooth artistic colors. I tried to push the paints to the max from the get-go. Specifically, I've used a very light skin tone on the darker surfaces of the model, and that didn't work out very well. I was hoping for a good coverage, but it would have taken too many layers. So I've decided to switch to the shade tone, and that worked out a lot better. Meaning that the coverage of the lighter tones is not gonna be as amazing as I was hoping for. So, after failing with Vanilla White, I decided to use Pink Flesh, which is the darkest color that I decided to use on the skin of this lady. And I just sketching the shadow onto the skin areas of the model, just making solid layers, and in this case coverage was good, really, as expected. No troubles laying down a perfectly smooth coat with just 1.5 passage. After that was light skin. Even in this case, just perfect coverage, one thin layer, and that's it. Now, one thing that you need to know is that this is a restrict small set. You only get 48 different colors. Now, that might seem a lot, but it's not really. If you compare that to other established brands like Games Workshop or Vallejo with all their lines, you would see that there's a huge number. The idea behind this is that you get the most saturated tones, you get the important shades, and then from there you mix them. So when you paint a model with these colors, you are expected to mix them to fine-tune the shade that you wanted. And this is exactly what I'm doing at the moment. I've had 41 dark brown ochre to the palette, mixing in with the various skin tone to get a deeper shade color to use on this lady. Mainly using it to block all the main areas, main parts. You can also see some magenta on the palette because I used it mixed in with the skin tone to paint the lips and give some blush to the cheeks of this lady. Before smoothing further the skin and other areas of the model, I need to block out the other areas to get a nice clean idea of where I was going with the paints. So I've had blue, primary blue and black mixed in 50-50 and painted the dark hair of this girl. Adding red, primary red, mixing it with an extra bit of magenta to give it that extra kick, to push it a little bit. It's something that I suggest you do if you want to paint a very bright red. And what would be a very nice lady without a good pair of shoes? Yeah, I'm painting them a bright red, a very vibrant color that would catch the attention of any male walking nearby. To further test these paints, I've decided to mix them with a regular color. I'm using a scale color, special effects, fluorescent paint, acid pink. And I didn't encounter any issue at all mixing it with the other paints. So, thumbs up for me. This is the result that we've achieved so far. Main focus areas, attention catchers are the shoes, of course, and the eyes of this lady. Now I focused my attention to the dress. It was just the airbrush work so far on it, and I wanted to clean it up a little to get a better understanding of the overall idea of the model. So I mixed in the dark brown ochre with some more magenta, and I used this dark color, dark shade, to block all those ribbons and details that would have become a brighter tone in the end. Even in this case, no issues at all with the coverage of these paints. Now this was a Kickstarter, so I received a bunch of different tools with it, from thinners to the case, wet palette, the sheets, the color wheels and all of that. and everything was okay. The palette was actually a really nice touch, and I really liked the fact that they included the 50 sheets for it, and I'm really happy with all of it. The only thing that I really dislike was the brushes that they provided. They might be sable brush, Kolinsky brushes, but I don't know. In my personal experience with those, I use them, I tried to paint the model with them, but after a few minutes I had to stop because the tip was just spreading open and I couldn't paint. I couldn't really work with them. So I don't know. I'll give them another go after maybe washing them with some soap and conditioner, but I'm not too confident. So ribbons and dress details were painted with the same techniques used for the shoes, mixing red and magentas, adding a little bit of white for extra bright spot. Now was the time to really focus the attention on cleaning up the airbrush work on the dress and smoothing out all of those edges and contact points between two colors where I smudged a little bit of paint onto the other. In particular for the dress, what I wanted to do was to push the saturation a little bit. I wanted to increase the mid-tone, so the very bright turquoise that I had, and extend it through the middle of the dress line. And this is what I'm actually doing right now. I'm using the pure turquoise and mixes of turquoise and green gray to fade in the airbrushing a little bit more. You can see I'm using white as well mixed in to the turquoise to create a brighter color that I'm using to the top, the higher part of the dress, because the idea was to have this smooth transition from bright to dark, top to bottom, onto the dress of the model. If there is one technique that these paints have been designed for is wet blending. They really push you towards that type of techniques, and so the fading work has been so easy that it's unbelievable. Now, to understand the model in a more cohesive way, I needed to attach it to the base. This is the base that I prepared in the custom meeple video. It's just the flat plastic base that you can find in any blister for Infinity models, and I'm just using the pin that I drill into the foot of the model to attach it to the surface. So the base has to deliver the scene with very small surface available, and in this case I've imagined an evening where night lights are starting to turn on and there's reflections on the floor, and she's walking towards some bright orange lights while all around is raining and the floor is wet. So this is the theme for this model. So guys, let me know if I've delivered on that theme, because that was what I was going for. Now I've just attached the umbrella arm, painted in a very quick and easy way, following the same proceedings that I've been doing for the rest of the model, without getting too fancy. A little bit of sketch non-metallic metals. Once the model is complete in all of its parts, it's time to fix and fine-tune all the little lights that you find around the model. I've decided that the heels of the leg was in need of extra lights, and that's what I've done. Now I'm focusing the attention onto the umbrella. This is the design that I picked for the top of the umbrella. When you tackle a freehand, it's always good to have a reference picture. I'm not that good at drawing, but if I follow a ready-made example of what I'm trying to copy, it's so much easier. Then you just simplify it. Basic steps, starting from one feature and going into the next one, adding a little by little. Divide the areas in simple shapes and draw easy lines. Try to keep your paint thin, try to keep your layers thin, let it dry before applying a next one, and do not go for full opacity at first, even if you're painting blacks, which I'm not in this case. I'm just using the dark brown ochre. If you follow these rules, the result is going to be achievable with fairly easy techniques. So my thinking for this part was to first do the branches with the dark brown, then the major spots of pink with the flowers, the bigger flower attaches to the branches, then do the petals, and then do the faded branches in the background with a lighter shade of brown. Working in stages allows you to fix little mistakes without too much hassle, and a little by little you'll get to the end result. Now I'm applying vanilla white spots for the center of each bigger flower, and then I'm gonna move on to paint some of the butterflies that you can see very faded in the design on the bottom left. So this was a fairly easy design to pull off. I'm happy with the result, and it seems like even the customer was. Now, the scale color smooth acrylic paint worked out perfect. I didn't have any issues throughout this project. The result was extremely matte, extremely clean, and all the paint layers were very thin. It was easy to thin down to ink qualities without losing any of the opacity or any of the pigmentation. It was always under control. They're not heavy body, but they're very close to be. So you can thin them down a lot, or you can use them to create some volumes. Because of this though, when you put them in the wet palette, be careful not to add a bigger amount, because they will suck in the water and spread all over the place in your palette. Now I'm gonna keep on experimenting and using these paints, and if something comes up in the next few weeks or months, I will let you know. We finally got here to the end result. I couldn't be happier with the model. I think it's great, but I'm more interested in knowing your opinion, because every child is beautiful in his own mother's eyes. So to sum up this experience, it has been a very positive one. The cost of all of these, around 220 euros, has been reasonable. The products that I got are very good. The paint set is well thought, and it's a good all-around paint set that would last me for a long time and that I will be using on most of my models from now on. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see me do with these paints next, or what your experience is, and I'll be happy to share all of my thoughts with you guys.